Welcome to Lift Your Legacy. My name is Jacob Rupp, father, husband, and rabbi. And each week we bring you an inspiring person or message to help you unlock your inner potential and create change that will impact the future. Thank you for listening, and let's get to it.
Gentlemen, my favorite topic ever: health, fitness, fat, skinny, body image, feeling bad about your body image, fixing your body image. Do you need to fix your body image? This is actually the longest interview I have ever recorded, and that distinct honor goes to Sarah Kupfer, who is in charge of the movement, The Fit Jewess. She is a blogger and influencer and very much in the space of helping women feel great and healthy about themselves, their bodies, etc. She has a gym she's opening up in Lakewood, New Jersey. A few Jewish people there, and we talk in very open and straightforward details about the body image. How do you build a healthy body image? What are the thoughts and feelings around body image, thin focused and all that kind of great stuff. So I enjoyed having this conversation very much. I hope you benefit a great deal. And we are both coaches, or at least I'm currently coaching, and I think that Sarah is as well. So if you need any help, assistance, thoughts, please don't hesitate to reach out to either of us, and we will be there to help you. Thank you so much, and please enjoy. Sarah Kupfer, thank you so much for joining. You are the face behind the brand The Fit Jewess, social media icon, women's health advocate, etc. Tell me a little bit about your path to fitness and how you brand yourself and the message that you're trying to put out in the world.
All right. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. I feel like we were talking about this recently at dinner. I just moved back in with my parents, and we were trying to figure out, like, how do you know when you've made it? Because I get stopped on the street in LA and in New York and in New Jersey, but at the same time, I don't have a huge social media following. So all these little, like, hey, will you be on my podcast things? I'm like, did I make it? Did I make it? Do I know? And my mom was like,
you made it now.
My mom was like, you know you've made it when you get invited to a Pesach program.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay. So thank you for having me. My favorite sport growing up was sitting on the couch with a really good book. Literally the last kid chosen, or second last in some cases, kid chosen for any sports teams that we played in school. And you could not pay me to go to the gym. That was totally unclear. You couldn't pay me to go to the gym. And when I was moving, I'm originally from Toronto. So when I moved from Toronto to California, I figured the whole change is a good time to introduce a little bit of movement into my life, just because living a sedentary lifestyle is not healthy. So I had read an article about CrossFit, and something about the weightlifting intrigued me. Cardio really doesn't speak to me. I always had this association with exercise, running on the treadmill or a step class or kickboxing, and none of those things excite me. And I think that if we're not going to enjoy what we're doing, we're just not going to do it, or start and stop or hate to do it or whatever. So when I found CrossFit, totally fell in love. And like all CrossFitters, all I did was talk about CrossFit. And the more I spoke about it, the more I realized people didn't care what I had to say. And it's not because it was CrossFit. It's just because that we haven't prioritized fitness in our community, in the Orthodox community. And I get it. The women are super busy, wife, they have a husband, kids, full-time jobs, or stay-at-home moms, whatever it is, they're busy. And a lot of times when we think about exercise, we immediately associate it with weight loss. And when people think about weight loss, what's the quickest way to lose weight? They think diet, which in and of itself is another conversation because it's not necessarily true. But exercise usually falls off just because people don't go to the gym and immediately lose 5 pounds and see results. So it just becomes something that's good to do, but not super important. And really the health benefits of exercising far exceed whatever, weight loss a person can achieve. And so when I realized that no one was really talking about that, I figured I'll do it. So I'm trying.
So tell me a little bit more about that, this idea that exercise and fitness should be, in your mind, should they be divorced from the weight loss conversation? What role does the weight loss conversation need to be had, or should it be had within the Jewish community?
and why don't women prioritize fitness like they should?
Okay, so great questions. I am a health at every size advocate. So my approach to health in general is pretty much one where I believe that anyone can achieve health at whatever size they are. And that doesn't mean that everyone is healthy right now, but it means you can be healthy regardless of your weight or size, as long as you're maintaining habits of health.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is that a like existing philosophy out in the world? Is this something you created?
Yes.
Where did it come from?
No, it's not me. It's a movement called Health at Every Size.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what's the thinking behind it?
Exactly like I just said, the premise really is that weight doesn't dictate our health. And I think, like, I'll just give you an example. Let's use diabetes, for example, right? So most people have this understanding that someone gains weight, is eating a lot of sugar, whatever it is, gains a significant amount of weight, and very often that leads to diabetes. So the thought process is lose weight, right? Or whatever the appropriate action is. But a different way of thinking about it is, what if we consider that weight gain is a symptom of being a pre-diabetic, right? The science doesn't show us it could go either way. I'm not saying that gaining weight is a symptom of being pre-diabetic, but I'm also not saying that someone who gains weight will become a diabetic. I think there isn't enough research for us to show either way. But even if you have someone who has diabetes, right, it's not the weight loss that's changing things. It's the changes in their habit that very often lead to weight loss that are changing the numbers in their blood work that lead to the difference that they really need to make in their health. It isn't about the weight per se. It's about the way they're eating. It's about, so just going back to in general, it's the way you eat, the way you exercise, how much you sleep, how you manage your stress, your environment, your genetics. There's so much more that plays into what a person looks like, that it's not fair to make, we equate being thin with being healthy. And it's just not true. You have fat people who are healthy. You have fat people who are unhealthy. You have thin people who are healthy. You have thin people who are unhealthy. It really just it's more about what am I doing and how am I living my life. That's going to dictate my health rather than what size am I wearing.
At what point that makes sense, 100%. And obviously, yeah, you can have someone, let's say, that is rail thin and terribly unhealthy. You could also, there is, I guess, in America, a conversation that is developed around what we would call the obesity epidemic, but there is also, on the other side of this spectrum, all of these eating disorders and people that are, quote unquote, like super thin, but it's really not healthy. And so I think that the question then develops around the image, the body image in general, and where we get it from and how we work on that. So what's that approach? Like, what approach do you take, either with yourself, with your clients, in helping a person feel, I don't know if you didn't say feeling good about your image at any size. You said healthy at any size. So I think that is one big transition to make, is like, okay, let's not worry about the weight loss, but let's just try to get you healthy habits, because that's just going to be good for you. But then how do you start to address the image of the body? Okay.
So I started by saying that I'm a health at every size advocate. I'm also a body positive activist and a weight neutral fitness coach. So
Great.
my approach to fitness basically is, let's bring exercise into your life in a way that you enjoy, in a way that makes you feel good, in a way that builds your confidence, gives you more strength, gives you more energy, and essentially gives you the results that you're looking for while taking the focus off of weight loss. So all of my clients who have, I shouldn't say all, I should say 95% of the clients who have come to me saying, I want to lose weight, right? That is the very normal reason that a person would go to the gym. And in sitting down with them, the first conversation that I have is, I totally hear you, been there, done that. Why do you want to lose weight? right? So very often it's, I want to be healthier. I want to be around for my kids. I want to have more energy. I want to be able to run around with my kids. I want to be able to get my groceries up the stairs and to my front door without huffing and puffing. All these things, energy, strength, health, again, let's circle back to, really aren't directly tied to weight loss. If we can exercise, focus on those goals, we can get them the results that they're looking for. We've just shifted the focus. We've shifted the mindset a little bit.
What's
through that
I'm sorry. So I totally hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
The idea being that if you kind of sketch out why you want to lose the weight, you can directly get those benefits.
Yes.
Why would you start with the premise that weight loss is problematic as a goal?
Because looking at evidence-based research, 95% of people who lose weight gain it back, and majority of them gain back more than they're losing. So to date, there is no weight loss plan that is sustainable for the majority of the population. So yeah, you definitely have, some diets or programs or eating, whatever you want to call them, some programs that work for a minority of the people, and they're able to keep that weight off. And if that's, if they feel good that way, great, that's awesome. At the end of the day, that's what this is about. But they're unicorns. They really, really are. And making people feel like they're doing something wrong by not being able to keep the weight off is not helping them. So first of all, like I said, genetics, environment, lifestyle will play a huge role in that. Stress management. Some people lose weight when they're stressed. Some people gain weight when they're stressed. There are so many things that are so beyond our control. The only thing that is within our control is how we eat, how we exercise, how much we sleep. I mean, that's not true. There are stress management techniques and all of that stuff. But again, there's so much that's beyond our control that to pin it down and say, oh, you don't have the willpower or you don't have the self-control to lose the weight is really looking at such a tiny, minor part of the whole bigger picture, and it's totally unfair. I just drove out from LA. I moved to Lakewood. I drove from LA to Lakewood. To me, it's kind of like saying, if you have gas in your car, you are good to go, right? If you don't have gas, you're not. Like the whole calories in, calories out thing. But did I get an oil change? Is my transmission working properly? What's my gas mileage, right? I can put in a full tank of gas and my friend can put in a full tank of gas. But if we have different cars, we're not going to get to the same place at the same time with that amount of gas because our metabolism is different.
What do you think the end? So out of curiosity, what is the end goal? Is the end goal the Lakewood, if you would, so to speak, in this analogy? Is it weight loss? Is it feeling positive about your body? Is it health?
It's health, and to me, health incorporates physical health, emotional health, and mental health. So going back to your question of, I think part of the weight loss as a goal, the issue with that is, part one is that it's really not attainable for everyone. And certainly there isn't anything that is sustainable for the majority of the people to date that has been proven, as something that is viable. And a really, really big part of that is, what is it doing to your mental and emotional health? Dieting and the pursuit of weight loss and thinness in our community and the frum community is very much a part of the culture, to the point where we grow up with it, and it's spoken about so much in reference to shidduchim, and it's spoken about, it's the eating disorders that we have in our community is not okay. We're not talking about it so much, but they exist. And I think we have to consider, what is that pursuit of thinness doing to the people in our community in the process? And so while I very much focus on health, I'm not saying that it's not important to consider our nutrition and that it's not important to consider our exercise, because I believe that's very important. And I will be the first person to say I refer out to dietitians all the time. I just refer to a weight neutral dietitian. I refer to someone who really knows how to put the focus on, what does your body need for you to be able to function at an optimal level, not how many calories did some person arbitrarily decide based on some BMI number that the person who invented it specifically said is not to be used the way we use it. Like, it's just, I really believe in focusing on health as a bigger picture instead of isolating different parts of it, and then expecting us to be able to function properly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. So you're saying that it's important to be healthy. It's important to find a plan that works for you. It's important that you shouldn't feel, it's interesting because this has been a focus of my life for most of my life.
I know.
I never recognized that, there is a certain level of an obsession, or that the guilt that goes around, or all of those kinds of things. So it is very interesting. And I remember hearing one person from the East Coast saying, some people just don't care about how their body looks, meaning essentially they're just kind of like, they're fine with how it looks. And I honestly didn't believe this person. I don't know what your experience is. Do you find that is very rare? Is that a goal that we're looking for? Is that do you have to start by redefining what attractive looks like for yourself, for other people, stuff like that?
Ooh, this is a loaded question.
I'm curious. Okay.
I've never heard anyone say that people don't care what they look like. And I will say that
I also was shocked. I was like, what are you talking about?
Totally no.
That's you're from California, you don't understand. I'm like, what?
No, that is not true. Literally, I was interviewed for a non-Jewish magazine a couple years ago, and one of the questions they asked me was, when was the first time that you heard about dieting as a kid? And I was shocked to realize that there was no first time. It was so, like kashrus and Shabbos, it was 100% a part of my culture. 100%. And that is 100% tied in with how we look. For sure. You cannot go, I don't know what it's like on the guy's side on the mechitza, but on the women's side, you cannot go to a single social event without the conversation at some point turning to, oh, I can't eat this, it's not in my diet. Oh, I can't fit into my dress. Oh, I'm going to a Weight Watchers class tomorrow, or whatever. Like, you can't have a single conversation that doesn't in some way, shape, or form turn to this pursuit of weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
It is very important.
Even if it's desirable, even if it's desirable. I mean, that's one of the things that I always get from people is it's like, I really should, and there's like a lot of guilt around the fact that they're not. So I would venture to say, even if it's not as explicit on the guy's side, there is certainly an awareness. It's like anything else. Like, guys also deal with insecurity, but they just don't talk about it as much.
Yeah, for sure. With regards to how you look, I think it's really important to care about that. You want to be presentable. Aesthetics are a big part of our day-to-day life. I think the question is, what are we defining as attractive? And I think that, interestingly enough, we get all this influence from the secular media, right? Of what is an ideal beauty standard. But at the same time, and I really, for me, my focus in the last couple of years has very much been on the young adult, single kind of community, because that's where I did most of my research. But what I noticed is that the more right-wing we get, the more focus on that thinness, particularly in Shidduchim, which I found really, really interesting, because the messaging is coming from the outside, and yet for some reason we're the ones taking it to the extreme.
Slow down. So that's going to be extremely controversial. I don't know if you've spoken about that at length, but tell me more about what that means.
Okay.
Just say that whole thing out, because like anything else, that lesson, most people are going to right away write off and say it's not true. So I'm curious, what the research you saw that backs that up, if it's circumstantial, if it's observation, and where you think it comes from.
Okay. So this wasn't like an official research project or anything. About 2 years ago, I gave an Eli talk. I don't know if you're familiar with Eli, but it's like a Jewish version of TED Talks.
Yeah.
And in preparing for that talk, I did a lot of surveying and getting feedback from people, primarily on social media. I spoke to women and men, single and married, shadchanim, and dating coaches. So that was pretty much the pool of people that I spoke to. And what was really interesting and what I found is that, again, I'll repeat it, the more right-wing we got, the more there was a focus on thinness.
Not on fitness. Not on fitness.
No, thinness.
Thinness. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
And I'm gonna throw out an idea here. I've heard it from a couple other people, and I think that it's true. And I'm not saying that I have a solution for it, but I think that because we're so segregated growing up, and that we don't learn the tools to interact in a healthy way with the opposite gender, what ends up happening
They're going to throw you out of Lakewood.
They're not listening to this in Lakewood.
Sure.
No, I'm kidding. What ends up happening is, and by the way, I went to Beis Yaakov, I went to a girls only school, and I'm really happy I did, and I plan to send my kids to an all-girls school, my kids to an all-girls school, my boys to an all-boys school. I'm not saying that the solution is, completely give that up, but I think that one of the negative aspects of one of the negative results is that you don't really have people who come out as young adults knowing how to interact in a healthy way. And part of that is that, what are they looking at? They get a piece of paper with a picture and some words, right? You don't tell personality from a piece of paper. You can't get much about a person from a piece of paper. So all you have to go off of is looks. So there's a much bigger focus on looks, because there isn't that focus on who are you and how do I interact with you? Meaning, if you go into the more, hold on, let me explain a little bit further and then hit me with whatever. If you go into the modern Orthodox communities, right? You have people interacting with each other, and I can meet a guy.
You're saying of different gender, men and women are interacting.
Yeah.
That's when you're saying people interacting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So a guy will meet a girl, and he'll get to know her. Again, I'm not even talking about in a dating setting. I'm talking about at an event or whatever it is. He'll meet her, he'll talk to her, there's so many yes, 100% you have to be attracted physically. I'm all about that. But at the same time, there's attraction to personality, there's intellectual attraction, there's emotional attraction. There are all these other parts that have to come into the equation, and he'll get that when he meets her, right? In the more right-wing community, you don't have a chance to be attracted intellectually, emotionally, personality, if you're not given the opportunity to meet the person. So the first step that is taken to meet that person is, let me look at her looks. Mm-hmm. And then that's where we have society's definition of beauty being thin. That's where that comes into the picture. Now, I'm not saying that once he gets to meet a girl, that the other pieces don't play a role. They definitely do, but it's what gets me to that first step. What gets him to meet the girl? It's the looks. Did you follow what I'm saying?
I love it. It's really fascinating. Mm-hmm. And I think that there is definitely, as a person that grew up not religious, that was about 100 pounds overweight, mm-hmm. or I call it from where I was overweight. Yeah. And I definitely did not have the body positive image stuff. Mm-hmm. I thought I was disgusting, and I could, whatever. I did realize early on that the fact that I had a great personality, the fact that I was Jewish, the fact that I was intelligent were all components, interestingly enough, that I knew were attractive, but I still struggled with that idea of, going into a romantic relationship, which mm-hmm. again, of course, in the Orthodox world, nobody does. Right. But I guess the idea being that a person learns how to accentuate some of their other good quality traits if they don't excel in one particular area called being physically attractive.
Sure. That's one way of putting it, for sure. Taking it to the next level, I think that I'm not saying just because based on the last sentence that you said, I think a person can be physically attractive even if they're not thin. I think there are many, many women and men who are not thin and are still really attractive. And yes, we have society's definition of beauty, but we also know, what we're personally attracted to. And I mean, I've had guys tell me that they're attracted to heavier girls, but they would never admit it, because then there's something wrong with them. That is the standard.
Orthodox people say that?
Yes. Are you able to like splice some parts out?
Yeah.
Okay, because I want to tell you something really interesting, but I don't want it to be on air.
Yeah, for sure. Tell me.
I had a guy tell me that he was attracted to me, and I knew he was attracted to me. And we had this conversation because it was at the time that I was knee deep in the research. And he said to me, but I would never take you home because of the comments I'm going to get from my mother and my brothers. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't messing around.
What was that like hearing that?
I found it really interesting, and it didn't surprise me because I think that the messaging, like, people want to know, where does this stem from? I honestly don't put a whole lot of blame on the guys. I put the blame on their moms. It's coming from the women. Again, we're growing up in this culture where thinness is the desired look. And they're hearing from their moms telling their sisters, and their moms telling, like, I think because for better or for worse, they're being told what to look for, right?
Of course.
And the messaging that they get is that you want someone who's beautiful, and beautiful is thin.
You know, at the end of the day, I think that we are completely narrowed in, focused in, and completely disingenuous with the individual. I mean, just putting it out there, like, there's no question that forget about the stigma of fat versus skinny. There is really one normal way to look. There is one normal way to behave, and anything that's not within that narrow norm is not.
I actually have had, over the last few months, a number of people reach out to me specifically saying, there's something wrong with the shit-off system. Let's make a change. And I will 100% stand by and fight that battle with whoever wants to fight it. But it's not the one that I chose to fight. I have learned to, be true to who I am, and I'm going to stick up for myself even when people, tell me utter nonsense. But I'm focusing on changing how we view fitness. I'm not necessarily looking to change the shit-off system.
And that being said, I am always focused on how do you draw the most direct line between where you are and where you want to get to in terms of being happy. You know what I'm saying? So the question would be, if I feel uncomfortable with how I look, right? Or I, let's say, quote, want to get married, right? And I did this. I lost 100 pounds and my wife never even demanded this. Like, I put on 50 pounds after we met because I finally felt like I found some lady that loved me for who I was.
Right.
And, I've done more for my physical health after I've been married, or I've been whatever. Yeah. I was not religious, but I've been with my wife since I was 18. But I think it's interesting because I would say, if you have someone that's looking to get married and the system is what the system is, I would work to try to get a person to fit into the system. If I would move to Lakewood, I'd be black and white tomorrow because, do you want to fight the system, or are you going to make, does that make sense?
Yeah. And you're making a great point. And it's a point that comes up a lot. Interestingly enough, it always comes up, not always, but mostly comes up from men. Mm-hmm. And I think a big part of it is the lack of understanding of how heavy this topic weighs on women, no pun intended. Uh-huh. And so I think you are making a great point in terms of just play the game if it's going to get you to where you want to go. And if it were just about, calories in, calories out, self-control, and willpower, I would agree with you. I would say put in the effort. But that brings me back to, you can't isolate physical health from emotional and mental health. And I think that people who, the toll that dieting and the pursuit of weight loss takes on women, really on all people. It does on men too, but for now we're going to talk, pretty much just about women, because again, just getting into technicalities, I had this conversation with a dietitian last week where we were talking about the difference between guys and girls losing weight, and it is, there's no two ways about it. It is easier for men, And it is easier for them to keep it off just based on how their body works. So I think that has to be part of the conversation. But I get told that all the time, right? I get told all the time by shadchanim, by family members, by friends, that if I lost weight, I would get so many more dates. Or I'll see a guy and I'll be like, oh, I really want to date him, and ask my friend, if she would see if he's interested, and she'll come back and say, like, he really likes you, but he's into thin girls.
That's
so
awesome. That's so painful.
It is. It totally sucks.
Is that painful? I would feel very pained by that.
It's hurtful because I don't feel like I can do anything about it, and I'll explain that. I know after 20 years, literally 20 years of dieting and trying to lose weight and ending up fatter every single time, I know where it puts me emotionally and mentally. I know what giving up dieting and that pursuit of weight loss has done for me in terms of letting me be free and letting me I've learned to be comfortable with who I am. And it doesn't mean that there aren't days that I look in the mirror and I'm like, I wish I was thinner, because at the end of the day, that's the messaging we get all the time. We all have our insecurities. It's not like, yes, I am super confident, and yes, I really do look like the way I look. I do. I'm not lying about that. But at the same time, there are moments and there are days where I'm just like, I wish I could just have an easier time going shopping. And I wish I could just date that guy. So for sure, it is hurtful, but I'm not going to put myself back into that space where I know it's not going to be beneficial for me emotionally. It's not going to be beneficial for me mentally. And because I'm so actively working on creating a physically healthy life for myself, I know I'm doing that right. I know I'm on the right path. I just, nowhere in that equation does it make sense for me to say, okay, let me lose some weight just so I can get a guy. Like, it just doesn't make any sense, because yes, maybe I'll get more days. Oh, by the way, I'm going to interject with something. You made a comment about wanting to get from point A to point B. Part of this research piece that I did, there is no correlation, by the way, between who gets married first, heavier girls or thin girls. No correlation whatsoever. And there is no correlation between size and marriage. There is a very big correlation between size and dates. So being thinner will get me more dates. But at the end of the day, I'm looking for one marriage. It just so happens that I'm 26 and single, but I have fat friends who got married when they were 19. Right?
Yeah, so, I don't, that also doesn't actually surprise me whatsoever.
Right. So with that being said, is losing weight really going to get me to my goal faster? No, it'll just mean shadchanim will set me up instead of me finding them, at a Shabbos dinner. So it won't necessarily get me closer to my goal. It's just playing the system, so to speak, but playing the system doesn't either get me closer to my goal. Do you know what I mean?
I guess it's interesting. Do you walk outside of the system then and just say, if you are of a certain body type, that just forget about working with shadchanim?
You don't have to. There are going to be people who are going to set you up. Yes, you'll get less dates, but you'll still get that marriage. Going back to the girl who gets married at 19 as soon as she gets back from seminary. Some of them are thin, some of them are fat. They're still getting married. They're still within the system. We put so much focus on thinness within the system, but are we looking at, I don't know. We kind of have to look at where is all the noise, but then at the same time, where are the results? Are we really talking so much about the noise that we're forgetting that it doesn't really make a difference?
Well, I would venture to say, and this is like the dirty secret that no one's talking about, and that is so patently obvious, that I think that post-marriage people are in crisis because the body images are not going to go away. You were saying, lose some weight so that you can get a guy. It's like, well, if you put on weight, or if he's, I think that just there is so much dysfunction post-marriage that I think that so much work has to be done kind of once you are already married. How do you come into yourself and feel comfortable on a physical level with yourself, with your partner, right? Right.
Which really leads us all back to positive body image, which we haven't touched on at all.
Right.
But positive body image is a huge, huge, huge part of this whole conversation. And I think it ties into, can you learn to be comfortable with yourself where you're at, regardless of your size, as long as you're, again, still putting the focus on maintaining healthy habits, but can you learn to be comfortable with yourself? And I can't tell you.
How do you know? I'm curious. How do you do that?
It's interesting because I don't know that I've ever broken it down in that way. When I make the decision that I am good enough, or I am worthy of being okay with who I am and the way I look, even if I'm not thin, through the process of learning to let go of diet culture is also at the same time a process of figuring out that worthiness that I have.
You're saying, okay, look, so diet culture starts from a premise that you're not good enough.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right. And you're saying, and okay, so let's I'll reverse it. As someone
Hold on. Maybe the answer isn't, maybe I'm phrasing it incorrectly. Maybe it's not, I realize I'm worthy, therefore I'm going to let go of diet culture. Very often it's not that way. Very often it's just, that's not working for me, right? Not to be super cliche, but insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. Right. So if dieting isn't working for me, I need to find another solution. And so very often what happens is I initially phrase it as, I recognize my value and I recognize my worth independent of my size, so therefore I'm letting go of diet culture. But for most people, it doesn't happen that way. For most people, it comes through that hasn't worked for me. I need to find a solution that will work for me. And in letting go of that dieting and giving yourself permission to just sort of experience what it's like to be you without all of that, that leads to understanding your worth. And it's a process. And very often there's a therapist involved. And it's not an overnight process.
I would share. Go ahead. Yeah. I would share that I had this, I forgot what it's called, body dysmorphia or whatever it is, that I could be, I'm 5'6", I was 265. I got down to 168. And I remember the experience of kind of looking myself in the mirror, not with like my shirt on, and be like, oh gosh, you still gotta lose this and lose that and all kinds of other stuff. And recognizing that it's very possible for you to very much change your body. Again, and it's funny because I spent my whole life fat and I still see myself as fat. And even though people are like apologizing to me for eating cookies in my presence or donuts, I'm like, I don't care, make yourself happy. And, you know what I'm saying? So the interesting thing is, I think that the diet culture perpetuates this sense of you're not good enough. Yes. And if you flip it, and you try to start to feel good enough about yourself, your health and your fitness, like you're saying, will naturally stem out of love and not out of lack or upset. If I don't go to the gym to do my workout, just like you, I'm upset because I'm a person who is valuable, and valuable people need MMA or need yoga or need CrossFit. I think that the concept is, learning to break out of what the society tells you. We have to switch to loving ourselves. I buy that. Yeah. I think that when a person truly loves themselves, how do I say this? I project myself onto everything, but I think that if a person truly loves themselves, they will love how they feel when they are eating healthy and when they are exercising in a manner that they care about.
Yes.
And and then naturally, right, you're going to love yourself and love your spouse if you're loving who they are and not what they do, right? If you can make that transition, then you will get skinnier or better or healthier or whatever it might be. But it's it's the outcome, not the thing, not the vehicle to getting to where I want. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think so. And I think if I'm following your train of thought, I think this takes me back to the question that you asked me about practical tips for positive body image.
Yeah.
And the reason that I have a hard time, I had never thought about it like that way. Like I have there are a couple exercises I could recommend people try, but I don't have that. I think a therapist would, and I don't, but because the way that I help my clients come to that is through their fitness journey, right? So people don't walk into my studio and say necessarily, I love myself and I want to feel better about it, right? They come in saying,
I hate myself.
Yeah,
and I'm overweight.
Pretty much, yeah. And we'll sort of separate the weight loss goal from it. But through the process of exercising it, through the process of realizing how incredibly awesome your body can be and the things that you can accomplish that you never dreamed. I mean, I just ran a Spartan sprint last week, and I plan to do the trifecta this year. And for anyone who doesn't know, it's like an obstacle mud run type thing. And had you told me that 5 years ago, I would have just laughed in your face. Like, I can deadlift 255 pounds. Again, I would have laughed in your face because I'm naturally weak. I genuinely am. So for me to discover all these different things that I'm able to do, that I'm capable of doing, I can only imagine how much more I could achieve if I tried. That whole process for me was so empowering. And it was really that feeling that sort of led me down this road of opening my own studio. I think that a lot of my clients get that too. They might come to me because they don't feel good about themselves. They might come to me because they want weight loss. They might come to me because they hate exercising and, they're trying something different because the last place they went to wasn't for them. But my goal is always to give them such a positive experience in terms of the workout itself, but also in terms of the community and the environment that is, supportive and very much community oriented, that through that process, they're willing to get out of their comfort zone and sort of discover physically what they're able to do. And this is super interesting because I asked a friend of mine recently, I was working on like a personal exercise, and I asked a friend of mine to tell me what he's observed about me, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And one of the things that he mentioned was he feels like through this journey of the last few years that we've known each other, he's seen how I've gotten physically stronger and how that strengthened me mentally and had an effect on my strength of character. And I had never thought about it in those terms, but I think he has a really, really, really good point. Me working with my clients, I think just the journey that they go through in coming to work with me and in going through that process of gaining strength and energy and sort of discovering their physical self, the positive body image comes along with it for the ride.
I think that ultimately is, again, not to be completely Hasidic on anybody, but the idea of trying to find in the lower self, the higher spark. I think that there's nothing more profound or holy or spiritual than that, in the sense that, we might never see what it looks like to change a midah, but you definitely can see if you can curl more, or if you can deadlift more, or if you run more, or if you, I'm saying like it's shocking to the extent to which it does empower us, because if you can change your physicality, then you can for sure change your intellectual side, your emotional side, stuff that's like, again, it's like that Rabbi Kippur thing about, I don't know, again, we haven't said this yet, but if you like you look at the water through the rock, right? And you're like, wow, physical stuff like really doesn't change. And if it can, so then all the more so. So it's like, there could be nothing more beneficial, I think, in a lot of ways. And Rav Kook said stuff like this and talked about that it's like, and this was like the craziest thing. I'm going to share this to you, if it's at all anecdotal, to my listeners, if it's at all helpful. And you, by the way, have won the longest interview ever. It's fascinating. So thank you. And I was concerned about this interview because I see myself as a strong advocate for shallow bodybuilders. But so I was showing off my calves one time in yeshiva. And a rabbi came up to me and he said some kind of disparaging comment like, "Oh, look, there's more for the worms to eat." And it really unleashed a tremendous sense of self-loathing, in the sense that it was like, like I'll never fit in, or even something that I'm proud of. Like, again, I exercise, I work out hard. I've worked out hard for since I was a teenager. And, so I've seen how your body can transform whatever it is, just like you said. I don't know what
I don't think there's anything wrong with taking pride in your muscles.
So watch this. So the fascinating thing was I felt terrible because of the messaging that I got. Like, oh, more for the worms to eat. I got that messaging, but then I started learning Rav Kook, and I read this thing. It's like the most amazing thing. It's like Rav Kook on war. He was saying that the small Jew, the weak Jew, is an exiled Jew. And if you think about David HaMelech and Avraham Avinu and all of our ancestors were these big, strong warriors. So it's so interesting because we sometimes look at the modern, healthy Israeli, whatever you want, and say, that's just, that's a result of the culture, and the non-Jewish culture. And really the Jews look like they should have in the shtetl. But it was just fascinating for me to hear, like, no, actually not necessarily. Like, if you go back before the shtetl and we were forced to be in those kinds of situations, we were big, strong, and healthy. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I think it kind of goes full circle in a lot of ways. How do people find out more about you and all of your exciting projects?
I am on Facebook as Sarah Kupfer and Instagram at FitJewess. I also blog on my website, fitjewess.com. That's FITJEWESS.
Okay, amazing, Sarah. Thank you so much.
There you have it, folks, another inspiring episode. If you enjoyed this, I ask you to please share this with your friends and to like us over on Rabbi Rupp through Facebook or on YouTube. And the more that we're able to get these important messages out, the more that we can really make an impact in the world. So I encourage you, please, to stay tuned. We have a ton of amazing speakers coming up, and also to tell your friends about it. Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, my favorite topic ever: health, fitness, fat, skinny, body image, feeling bad about your body image, fixing your body image. Do you need to fix your body image? This is actually the longest interview I have ever recorded, and that distinct honor goes to Sarah Kupfer, who is in charge of the movement, The Fit Jewess. She is a blogger and influencer and very much in the space of helping women feel great and healthy about themselves, their bodies, etc. She has a gym she's opening up in Lakewood, New Jersey. A few Jewish people there. And we talk in very open and straightforward details about the body image. How do you build a healthy body image? What are the thoughts and feelings around body image? Thin focused and all that kind of great stuff. So I enjoyed having this conversation very much. I hope you benefit a great deal. And we are both coaches, or at least I'm currently coaching, and I think that Sarah is as well. So if you need any help, assistance, thoughts, please don't hesitate to reach out to either of us, and we will be there to help you. Thank you so much, and please enjoy.